Okay, thought I'd take a break from Indians for a minute and work on something else here which might be of interest to you all. I just finished carving this figure of Rooster Cogburn. I did him once before for a piece up at the John Wayne Museum up in Winterset, Iowa, which came off really nice and is really appreciated up there, I think. People seem to enjoy it. Here's a picture of that carving. It's sitting up there in Iowa in a display case, along with a lot of the film artifacts from the movie Rooster Cogburn. His eye patch is in there, his jacket's in there, my little carvings in there, which makes me feel real nice. Plus quite a few other things. So anyway, that's what we're going to do here. This one isn't going to the museum. I don't know where this one's going. But it'll go somewhere. So anyway, he looks pretty nice. I like him. He looks kind of shifty. And it's changed a little. I didn't want to copy the other one exactly, because I just don't like to do that. Don't like to repeat carvings. That's no fun. So I gave him a different neckerchief layout, where the previous one, the neckerchief hung down in front of him. So I figured I'd change it a little bit just to make it different. He's got a different kind of hat. I mean, it's basically the same hat, it's just different. It's sides of his hat are rolled up. So wherever this carving goes, whoever gets it gets an original. It's not a copy. It's just another wood carving by me at Rooster Cogburn. And I mounted it on a nice oak base here, which will be stained dark, so that'll really set him off. So anyway, I thought while I finished him here, we'd just do a video or two, certainly not more than that, I don't think, of how I go about painting a figure. I've explained that in the past, but I'll just do it again, being as we have some new subscribers who've asked me to do that. So anyway, let's take him apart here. There's a cigarette aside there. Well, I always seem to lose them. Okay, first thing I do when I carve is, or paint, is give me a stick here, something to hold so I'm not handling it, because if you go to handle something, it's going to get dirty. No matter how clean your hands are, you've got oil on them, and that'll transfer to the surface of the piece, and the paint won't attach itself evenly across it. So, first thing I'm going to do, start with his head here. Soak him down good. And let that soak. And then I'm going to do his hat the same way. I just make these sticks out of a piece of dowel, old broom handle. Drill a hole in the end and stick a screw in the end of them. And epoxy it in place. It works real well and don't have to spend any money. I generally have these things laying around the shop. So we set that aside. Now we're not going to be working on the body part here. I don't want to lose that cigarette. Usually what I do first is I'll do the hat and then I'll do the face. Why do I do it in that progression? Well, I don't know why, I just do it that way. Now, why do I wet my wood? If I wet my wood, the colors when I put it on here are going to soak into the wood. They're not going to sit on top of the wood. If the wood was dry, the paint would just sit on top. It'll be a dead looking color. by having the paint soak into the wood, it takes on the color of the wood and becomes very warm, because basswood is a warm colored wood. This is the color of the basswood when it's varnished. So if you're painting a piece of dry wood, you can see the difference. Now, if I put a color on here, any color, on this piece here, it will be, although it will be the same color that I put here, it will be a different color. But because I'm putting it on a wet piece of wood, it's going to take along the color of this piece here. And then when you varnish it, it's going, this color will really start coming out. It just looks terrific to me. It's warm, people like it. It's not cold. So that's the spot right there. So, there's my pencil. We'll start. I paint the hat, being as Rooster's hat is black. I'm going to paint it black, but I use a color called licorice, because black is a transparent color. Licorice has, I think it's a little white in it, just a little bit, but just enough to make it opaque. Where I don't use a lot of it here. Plus, I'm just about out painting that thing there. Get me a big brush. When you buy brushes, always buy some good brushes. Don't buy cheap Walmart brushes you see down there, because they're not going to last you, and they start fanning out. They just don't last. Some of these brushes, like this one here, I've used for 25 years, and it's still going strong. So let's just start laying the color on here. And don't be bashful. If you want to paint something, paint it. Don't be bashful. Don't be a dabber. You want all that paint to soak in. And you can see it soaking in. See there? See how dull it is? That's going into the wood. That's just what you want. You see me sticking my brush up in that paint. Why I do that, I want to keep some water in the paint. That allows it to soak in, which is what I want. I'm just about out of paint. Figured I'd use a lot of it. I think I'm going to have to squeeze out some more. Let me wipe up the last of this. have hardly any in here either. Just enough to finish. I get a lot of solid, heavy color right in here around the lip of the base of the hat, where it attaches to the head, because that'll create a shadow and hide the seam. And I'll just use the rest of that paint up. There's a spot. Looks good. Now you can see how dull it is now. All that paint is in the wood itself. It's not sitting on top. It's in the wood.
Top.
Top? Whoop. Look there. Right up there at the top. What would I do without Judy? And tell her I said that. So we can set that aside to dry now. Not dry. I'll be back to it before it dries completely for the next step on that. Let's just set it up here. Like that. Now for the head. You can see here that the the surface of the head is starting to get dry. Well, I don't want that. I want to put some more water. Let that sit a while. And I'll take the rag here and put some water on it and wipe up that black, because I'm pretty well finished with it. Okay. Next step. To making the flesh color, that's what I'm going to start with first. I use red iron oxide. Okay, why do I use this color? Because this is the color of blood. Not exactly, but it's pretty close to it. It's not red, it's sort of a rusty red. And the color of blood is kind of a rusty, deep red. So I'm going to squeeze me out some here. Just like that. And I'm going to use, this says antique gold, but what this is yellow ochre. Now what color, why do I use yellow ochre? Yellow ochre is the color basically of a human body when all the blood has been drained out of it. That's how I look at it. So we've got the color of the body, basically that color right there. I mean, that's what a human body looks like when the blood's all gone. So basically we've got that color and we've got the blood, and we're going to mix the two back together and bring the figure back to life. It's a nice way of thinking of it, isn't it? So I'll squeeze me out a little there. Put that back over there. Throw that thing away. Make sure my brush is clean. And I'm going to have to go change my water because it's full of black paint. There's enough in there to clean that brush. This is a little brush cleaning soap. You can buy this down at Hobby Lobby, or Walmart carries it too. A good thing to clean your brush. Again, if you take care of your brushes, they'll last you a long, long time. And good brushes aren't cheap, but they're cheaper in the long run if you take care of them. Still have a little black in here. See, that paint gets up in the ferrule of that brush inside it and just sits there. And if you don't get that out of there, it's going to affect your next colors. Okay, so I'm going to go get me some clean water. I'll be right back. Action, she says. Okay, I got my color squeezed out here. My figure's wet. And that's not my fault right there. That's a little old imperfection in the wood, but that's okay. Things like that make your carvings interesting. So he's ready to be painted. Got my brush clean. So I'm going to get me some red here, give me some yellow. Now mixing these things together, I can't tell you the formula other than to put the two together. It's just something you learn over time. Leave my brush up there. Now you see how I bleed it out? I've mixed me up a pile here, but now I'm bringing it out to a wash because I don't want to put that on there straight. That's just too much color. Start out with a little wash. And remember, a cowboy, like a farmer, wears his hat all the time when he's outside. So that hat, as he's got it on, prevents the sun from shining on the top of his face. Farmer's tan, cowboy tan, whatever you want to call it. So I start down here on the neck just to make sure that I've got the color I want. I could actually use a little more yellow. And then we're just going to lay it on here. I'm not really concerned about getting paint on the hair or anything because this wash is so light that the next color will cover it all up. Here on the nose, because it sticks out farther, it catches more sun than the rest of the face, so we're going to make it a little darker. Just bleed that up there. Lips are a little darker. doesn't have much of an upper lip, so I'm really not worried about that. Just the lower lip. You can see where I mix my colors, that color's almost gone. But there's still a lot of color there. So we're just going to keep brushing this on there, and actually I'm going to bring in some red and just mix it with that. And again, like I said earlier, his nose sticks out there, so it catches a lot of sun. And he's been down to the saloon, I'm sure, quite a few times, and had a few bruises. Don't forget to use your fingers. And right up there on his cheekbones, it also catches the sun. And if the color seems too heavy, like he's got rouge on or something, just get your brush wet and bounce it around there a few times, and it'll get rid of some of that color to where it's about where you want it. Let's just look at the photograph here. You can see that his nose is red. So I want it just a little redder. There we go. Now you can't do these things if you're painting solid paint. That's why you want to learn to mix your paints. Put a little color right there in his ear. Okay. Alrighty. Now, this color, get that yellow off of there. They put it. This color is midnight blue. I love this color. I use this color all the time. It is a great color for painting blue jeans on a cowboy, but it's a terrific color for helping to shade the face, and you don't need very much of it. There, that's way too much, as you'll see. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. Yeah, I think I'll just keep using this brush. So take a little bit of that. Now, do you see how much paint I pulled off of there? I mean, there's hardly no paint at all, but you watch the dramatic effect it's going to have on this carving. A little more out there. As you get older, your eyes take on a bluish cast. Not your eyes, the flesh around your eyes, but especially around this area. I don't like to. A lot of people take their gouges and chip out pieces of wood to indicate hair and whiskers and things, but I don't like that. I just like to use this blue. It works just as well for those things. Don't forget under his chin. It needs to be just a little darker. As the colors had a chance to set in, I'm going to put a little more on his nose here. Because your colors will draw themselves down into the wood and bleed out a little. So you have to touch them up a little occasionally. Not much, just a little bit. There, I like that. I think I'm going to put just a little more blue around his eyes. That looks good. Okay. Clean up my palette here. Oh, and I paint on glass, because with glass I can see down through these washes that I make to see just how thin they are. That's why I paint on glass, and it's easy to clean. Alright, so next step is the hair. Now for his hair I use this, it's a brown, it's called asphaltum. You'd think it'd be black with a name like that, but it's a real rich brown, and I like it. And I'm just about out of it too. It should be plenty, more than enough. And I'll use a smaller brush here, because I don't want to get any overlapping paint when I'm switching glasses. Like a lot of you went down and you bought those things you put on your head that has the goggles or the magnifiers in front of you. I bought me one too, but it was just so uncomfortable. I went down to Judy and I had our cataracts removed, and we were using these reading glasses for a while, and gee, I was sitting down there painting one day, and I said, well, gee, I believe I'll just go get my reading glasses and see how those work. Well, these are 3 power, and they cost me about $5, or that other thing, I can't remember how much it cost, but it cost quite a bit. And that's what I've been using since. They're cheap and they do the trick. When you're painting, don't be a dabber. Don't stick a little paint on the brush and then come up here and paint, because you're going to get a big old blob of solid paint. Work that paint up into the brush, and that way you can paint a long time without having to go back and fill your brush up again. Like that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and paint his hair. Not much to show you on that. And we'll come back here in a little bit. Okay, I got his hair and eyebrow painted. Now I'm doing the eye patch. This is just straight black again. I want to be really careful to not get any on his skin. Now if you look at my brush, the brush tip usually has two surfaces. One that has a point up here on the top, and another one where it curves up to that point. Well, if I tried to do it with that, that would be kind of hard to do, I think. Let me just see. Well, actually, that's pretty easy to do. I just had it backwards. If I tried to do it with the other way, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So, you'll find that after your brush wears a while, it'll develop its own little shape. And then you have to learn how to use it. A little bitty spot down in there. I'm just going to leave that because it's too small. Painting this way, if you get some paint slopped over another color, if you're real quick, you can load up your brush with water and basically just erase it, but you can't do that with black. You might be able to tone it down a little, but you're not going to get rid of it all. And the reason, again, I burned the lines into my carvings. Come on. Is that burnt line. Boy, that's a booger. Good enough. Stops paint from crawling over into another area. like I did just there. I'm just not going to mess with it. It's not that noticeable. Oh, what am I doing? You dummy. You dummy. I have to cut that out of the video. I saw it. Okay. So last thing for him is the eye, which I don't like to paint the eyes while the wood's wet. So what I'm going to do is use my hair dryer and dry that little area out there. Now, did you notice? Well, you probably didn't notice so much, but the colors just all of a sudden went dead because it got dry. Well, when you varnish this piece, I'm going to put some more brown on the eyelashes. All that, eyebrow. Yes, Judy. When you varnish it, that varnish is going to wet the wood again, and it's going to stay that way, so it'll look real nice. So I find my little bitty itsy bitsy brush here, which is right here, and I have this color. I used to use white, just plain white. That's pretty strong. Humans don't have white eyeballs, but they do have parchment eyeballs. It's just white with a little brown in it, and it makes all the difference in the world. I wet my brush, get most of the water out of there, but reestablish my point, because this is critical. Just a little bit of paint. Just like that. And dry that. Sure, I got all the water off my brush. So, and here's a point. This is a good tip here. When you're painting, when you're cleaning out your brush, you'll clean it all off, and you'll wipe it off. But invariably, you will forget to wipe this up in here. And when you're painting, there's a little bit of water up here. It's going to come down and drip right at a critical time when you're painting, because right there, see that? Mm-hmm. Watch what happens. Boop. Well, actually, you're going to do it again. Shake it off. Watch it. See, it's forming now. And you get ready to go paint, and you touch it to the wood, and that water will hit that, and you go back to get it off of there, and you just can't do that. It's just a mess. So always remember, when you clean your brush, make sure you wipe the whole thing. It's happened to me so many times. Yeah. So anyway, I got me a little bit of black on here, and he's looking off to the edge. So I'm going to put it right in here just to take a peek. I want to leave that little bit of white there in the corner of his eye. Hmm? Looks like he's looking down. There we go. Let's just see something here. That looks good. I can see a couple spots of mist there. Okay, so that's done. Well, we got some paint out here. I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'm going to use white on this cigarette, just for more emphasis. I can hardly even hold on to this. I don't have any fingernails. Well, boy, I'll tell you, the older I get, the harder I have of keeping hold of things. Probably a lot of that comes from falling off horses and breaking your arm a couple times. Ooh, watch out there, don't gonna get any on the hat. What a mess, huh? I'm gonna go wash my hands once I get this done. Okay, I'm just gonna set that there. Might have to touch it up. White go. See if I can paint those areas without touching it. It looks pretty good. Okay, to finish the hat. What? She says you're going to have to go wash your hands. No, I'm not, because I'm going to paint with black here and touch that up right there. Here's my brush. Get out my special brush here. I paid $35 for this brush. a long time ago. And again, taking care of it, it lasts a long time. So if I squeeze me out a little white, parchment rather, that's plenty. The hat is still damp, so I'm just going to give you a little paint on the brush. What I'm doing is just hitting the edges of things, adding a little highlight to them. I want to do it while it's wet because I don't want it to be too strong. Just strong enough. There, doesn't that look good? Using that Bob Ross stroke here. You remember Bob Ross, don't you? We just watched a video about him on the Netflix about how he was such a nice guy and helping everybody learn to paint. And then when he got old, he was taken advantage of to the point that where his son couldn't even use his own name. Couldn't use his name of Ross because these other people took control of that name legally, if you can believe that. Shameful. Don't need to do it underneath there. But I do want to get a lot up front here. Right in that area. Okay. Maybe up top. The videographer's getting tired of holding that camera, so we're just about done with this video here. So hat's done. So we got the hat and the head. So that's pretty good, this video. In the next video, to finish this up, we'll do the body. All right?